Well, good afternoon, family. Once again, it's your DC dude. If you are already a subscriber to this channel, then welcome back. However, if you are new to this channel, I recommend that you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can stay in the know about where we're going to go. Now, first and foremost, I want to apologize for my 3-week absence. It's been 3 Tuesdays ago since I did my last video. I'm picking back up with the Tuesdays and Saturdays. Duty called beyond local transportation services. I've been on the road for the last 3 weeks. First there was Philadelphia. This is across the street from the hotel I stayed in. It was the Best Western. Then I was off to Atlantic City. This trip was done by an organization called Soul Nation Events. And you can find them at www.soulnationevents.com. Soul Nation Events organizes affordable, exclusive tours, events, and getaways. This time the event was at the Showboat Hotel. Now the Showboat used to be a casino place back in the day, but today it's like pretty much a large Dave and Buster's where they have no gambling inside, but they tend to stick to events like boxing matches and concerts and things of that nature. This indoor go-kart track was pretty cool. Here's the view from my room. It would have been nice if the sun actually came out. So now off we go to Charlotte, North Carolina, where we came out here to do a shuttle bus for the President's Cup golf tournament. Here the people are lined up outside entering the tournament. Back on the road, family, heading back to Washington, D.C. from North Carolina. Crossing my favorite bridge that crosses the Susquehanna River. Pretty scary when it's windy out though. Then I stopped at Maryland House for a bite to eat. Here I am sliding into home plate courtesy of a guy who wanted to make a U-turn right in front of me. It happened right in front of the police station on Georgia and Quackenbos. Meanwhile, family, we find ourselves on the north side of the Capitol. See, I'm right here on the corner of Louisiana Avenue. Hey, that's North Capitol Street, running right behind me. So DC dude, are we still doing the series of African American heritage tours? Yes, we are. And I'm going to make a quick comment about that. So there are other African American heritage tours in Washington, D.C., and you'll find yourself at the typical locations like Frederick Douglass's house, a couple of places that we've been already, like Mary McLeod Bethune's, the African American Civil War Memorial, all cool. But I wanted to step back onto the beaten path, because those are off the beaten path, right? I want to step back on the beaten path where tourists normally do their thing. Places like the Capitol, like we're in front of, the White House, the World War II Memorial, the Korean War Memorial, the Vietnam Memorial, all those things where you'll find yourselves visiting if you take a typical tour in DC. But I'm going to twist it and show how African Americans have history in each of these areas, starting with the Capitol. And we're literally going to start at the very top of the Capitol, and we're talking about the Statue of Freedom today and an enslaved man named Phillip Reed. And there's no secret that slaves built many of the public buildings in Washington, D.C., including the Capitol and the White House. You'll hear more about that as the series goes along. But the guy who's probably the most popular, who we even know his name, is Phillip Reed. Phillip Reed was an enslaved laborer in the foundry run by self-taught sculptor Clark Mills, who cast the Statue of Freedom. Reed was described by Mills as age 42, mulatto color, short in stature, in good health, and a good workman in a foundry. When construction of the Capitol began in 1793, D.C. was little more than a rural landscape with dirt roads and just a few accommodations and a small number of border houses. So there was little skilled workers around it during that time. Because of lack of skilled workers, enslaved laborers were rented from their owners, were involved in almost every stage of construction of the Capitol. I use this book here for many of my notes. Not just for the building of the Capitol, but for future videos that I'm going to do of other places in the National Mall that had to do with African American history. I highly recommend it. So anyways, the story goes, Mills was a former resident of South Carolina where he had purchased Reid in Charleston for $1,200. He bought Reid with him when he moved to Washington in the late 1840s when Mills won the competition for an equestrian statue of Andrew Jackson commissioned at Lafayette Park that still stands today. So later in 1860, the success of Jackson's statue prompted the Secretary of War to give Mills the commission for casting Thomas Crawford's Statue of Freedom on top of the Capitol dome. As an enslaved worker, Reid was paid directly for his work on Sundays. However, his owner received the payment for his work the other 6 days. He worked most weeks without a break between July 1st, 1860 and May 16, 1861. So like I said, Thomas Crawford was actually the sculptor of the statue, and it was actually shipped from the United States from Rome. So the first step was to disassemble the plaster model into 5 main sections in order to move it from the Capitol to the foundry. Now, an Italian sculptor was hired to assemble the model. When the time came to move it from Capitol to the foundry, no one knew how to separate it. And the Italian sculptor refused to help unless given a pay raise. Fortunately, Reid was there and figured it out. And so Reid finally received his freedom on April 16, 1862. Does that date sound familiar? Well, that's because that's the day Abraham Lincoln signed into law the Compensated Emancipation Act to free slaves in D.C. So that's it for today, family. I hope I see you on the next video. Meanwhile, family, you never know where we're going to end up next. So if you want to ride, just click on subscribe.